Yeah, no, I've got it.
Thank you very much.
I was getting in trouble with the missus. I've been sitting in.
Yeah, cool. That's good. There we go. Right, fine.
Just pass the clip over.
Do I look good on the screen?
You cut the top of your head off.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. Yeah, I'm not going to touch on my camera. There we go.
Yep, that looks good.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I see you even wore a tie. You even wear a tie today.
Take one.
Don always wears a tie. You get used to it after a while.
That's not true. I often get asked, oh, have you got an interview today, Don? You've got a tie on. I'm like, I've worn a tie every day forever.
This tie is relevant, isn't it?
Oh yeah. If you can all put your zoom lenses on, I've got lots of stamps on my tie, and this is relevant. So I hope everyone's exhausted of their kind of agile kind of excitement, because this has got nothing to do with agile. I'm really sorry. I know this is like the Luton Agile meetup.
It's not project management, is it?
Yes. That's it. Yeah, I'm going to talk about projects, but no, I'm not. I'm going to talk about designs for Mailsort. So I'm going to explain what it is. I'm going to explain what on earth I'm on about Mailsort. I'm going to show a bunch of designs, and then I'll kind of summarise what's going on. So, does anyone still receive like official letters?
Oh yes.
Through the post? You know, like on the doormat, like Christmas cards. When that holiday coming through on the network. Does anyone still get them?
Banks and holiday companies.
Yeah, brilliant.
What's
So,
the people's post?
so I'm going to talk about that stuff. So I reckon in a room like this, a lot of people have signed up to getting online bills or statements and things like that. But those physical bits of printed documents still exist, and so I'm going to talk about those ones. So I'll give you a little bit of background to start with. When I was a kid, I remember this was my understanding of how the postal system worked. I'd write, spend a bit of time lovingly writing a letter to my grandma, and I'd put it in an envelope, and I'd ask Mum for a stamp because
You didn't have one tie.
because I didn't have one on my tie. and then hopefully at this stage I was tall enough to actually post it myself, and then magic would definitely happen. And after the magic happened, I certainly remember this fantastic documentary series which explained that a chap called Pat would then deliver that letter to my grandma and she'd open it and read it. So that was my kind of interpretation, and even 10 years ago when I started working at Williamsy, that's probably still my understanding of how the post system works. Magic in the middle there. So I'll talk a little bit about what happens in the magic. Almost. First of all, there are people in the room that work in the same industry we all have, so I'm definitely going to be simplifying one or two. There's going to be a couple of edges that I've smoothened off, and so please don't use this as a design. Don't tomorrow start up and do a design based on this presentation. Get the extra details, the rough edges. Okay. So, what happens after that letter goes into the post box is it will go to a sorting office, and that sorting office will read the address, work out where in the country it's got to go to, send it in a van to a delivery office, which is where Pat picks it up from and then delivers it to the house. Now, I've got a letterbox outside my house, so if I was to write a letter to my house, back to myself, I live in Luton, so I go to my letterbox, I post the letter, it would go to Milton Keynes, and then it gets sorted. It would then go to Luton Central, and then it would come back through my letterbox. If I'd like to actually prove this, put some like a GPS tracker in the post or something. I think that'd be fun. But so that's the kind of the route that it will take. So when it gets to the sorting office, it will go through a machine, and that will read the the actual, the text on the envelope and say, oh, this has got that postcode, this road, and put it into a tray. And if it's handwritten, this guy will actually, instead of it going into a box in this machine to go somewhere, this guy will sort it out and put it in the right box.
I've done that job.
Brilliant, really.
That's horrible.
And then eventually it'll end up in a bag, and that bag will get thrown into the van and eventually end up in a letterbox. So Mailsort is something you can do to your mail if you're doing high volume print. So producing a whole series of bank statements on behalf of a bank, for example, and you can skip that sorting office and just send those bags straight to the delivery office, and that will cut out a lot of the cost. And it's good to cut the cost. So to do that, you take the address and look up what's called a Mailsort code, reorder the data into that order, so that all the Mailsort codes are grouped together, and then send those bags direct to the delivery office. So I've got a couple of examples I'll talk through, but so why would you bother doing that? These are kind of the sorts of savings. I'm not going to talk about the detail of these, but depending on how quickly you want it and how well you meet the requirements, you can get, say, up to 40% saving on the cost of the postage. So if you're doing, say, a massive, like 100,000 documents or something, that's going to be a whole load of money. So technically, what that means, here's Graham sorted me out with a letter earlier. I was still preparing this. So here's a document. Here's my workplace, and this is the Mailsort code. So next time you see some print, a letter come through the letterbox, you might see this 5-digit code. Sometimes it's up to 6 characters for reasons I'm not going to explain today. But that's the SSC, the Mailsort Standard Selection Code. You also get things like this. This sort of pattern, sometimes you see it printed on the outside of a letter in sort of like ready sort of ink. So that's the CBC, or as I like to call it, the CBC barcode, which is very redundant. But and it's got 4 bits, so it's got either the top one, the long one, the middle one, or the bottom one. Is that? So anyway, to have some print mail sorted, you have to put the Mailsort code on. The font has to be one that's suitable. It has to have a real address with a real postcode, this barcode, and here we've got a bag labels file. It's actually a report, but you can see here the different distribution offices in the report. So now I'm going to show you how you'd get to that, how you get the print to look like that. So one way of doing it, this one I know least about, is a hardware Mailsort. So you get a machine that can do that scanning and reading and putting things in the right box, and you instead of having it in a sorting office, you have it in your print factory. And so the day's worth of print you would put through that machine, and it would get siphoned off into the different routes and go into the bags ready for the delivery offices. So here's those same 2 pictures again, and basically you take that in-house and do that. It's an expensive piece of kit. I think it might be like £500,000, something like that. So it's definitely it's not something you'd sort of do like on a whim. You wouldn't go, I think I might get a Mailsort machine. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward because you're already printing the letter. It's still got to go in the post. It's still got a valid address. It's not going to get where it's going if it doesn't. So there's one option. Next up, this one's like a nice. So this is a batch process. We're looking at design for batch process. What we've got here is the input data, and we'll put it through a Mailsort process, and then you've got the input data again, but in a different order, with the SSC code, and you'll also get that bag report out. I'll come back to that in a second. Then that mail sorted data, you put that through what's called a composition engine, which will generate a print file, and you can print that, put it in envelopes, and then the bag labels, that is something like this, where you put a sticky label on the bag to say, yeah, this is for that area, this is for that area. So this is kind of like, it's nice, it's cheap and easy, and instead of any of that crazy expensive machine operation you've got to do, you've got it done digitally. It's got its constraints though. So when you go to print that, the print machine will not only print it, it'll put it into an envelope. It may even put some pre-printed inserts in. So that's the print job setup. And when you've got this one print file, you can only have one job set up. You can't start changing envelopes partway through. So say if you've got a branded envelope with the name of the company on, this won't be suitable because you'd have to be changing the envelope all the way through, something like that. So it's cheap and easy, but it's got its constraints. So one specific one of those constraints that's quite important, say for example you're going to be printing and it's not necessarily going to be the same number of pages. So you've got someone that's made loads and loads of phone calls, that, you know, one of these dialing machines that's just dialing it every minute of the day. It's going to have a 50-page kind of itemised bill, and if it's me, I've probably made 2 calls, so it'll just be the 1 page. So it doesn't take account for that because you've got constraints on the size of the envelopes as well. So making the solution a little bit more complicated, we can cope with that. Here we've got the input data. This time we compose it straight away, and the big letters go straight to print and out via without Mailsort. Whereas the small letters, the ones that can be mail sorted, we do, as well as outputting the print, you output another data file and you mail sort that file. So that will then be reordered, but it's just a data file that's reordered. So at that stage, you have to take the actual print, the contents of the print file, and put it into the same order as that mail sorted file. And then once you've got that, you can print it, and it's the same end again. So put it in envelopes, put it in bags, label the bags, and send it on. So this is cool because it can cope with those different size documents. It's definitely a bit more complicated to implement. And the only other drawback is the bug. So
just that.
yeah, the bug. So this will be a very specific scenario with the versions of software that we run in our company, but that reordering of the print file, it can be quite slow because it's not just reordering data at that stage, it's reordering a print document. So here's an alternative solution, and the only difference being is that print file is just ignored. So once you know how big it is, and you've got the output that's, say for example, greater than 7 pages, you then reorder the input data instead of the print file, and then compose again. So does that make sense? So it's a really similar diagram to the last one, just with, instead of that one being reordered, it's this one being reordered. Now, I can't give a confident explanation as to why that's faster than the previous one, because you're doing the same job twice. But in our specific scenario, empirically it was. So this is just an alternative post sort, and it's a bit convoluted. So we're near the end now, okay? this last solution I'm going to talk about is called print point. So what we've got here is, as say for example you're receiving data over the course of a day for lots of different shapes and flavours of document. They arrive, they get composed, and then they get loaded into a pool of documents. So I've just put the 2 here, but that could be 20, 100 different streams of work, different sets of data, all coming in and being pulled. Then at a cut-off time, we'll get some metadata out, say what's all the addresses on that lot, and that will be mail sorted. Again, with the bag labels, the mail sorted version of this, and then those documents all get merged together and put into a print document in the order of the mail sort order. So again, then printed, put in envelopes, put in bags.
Would that mean they'd all have to have the same envelopes?
It would, yeah. That's right. So that's brilliant for maximising savings. You can get output from the whole day's work, but again, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just a single print setup. So there's a whole range, and they've got their pros and cons for different scenarios. So here it is, pretty near the end. We've got. Strangely enough, if you're doing high volume print, you can save costs, and these are the different designs presented there. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of refreshing to see just how behind the scenes it's a relatively complex world when it's something you don't even think about when you just put it in the bin without opening it. Cool, so that's me. Thank you so much. Has anyone got any questions?
The different. Have you got any thoughts on why it is quicker to rebuild the PDFs than cut them up? I guess.
Yeah, that's why I called it a bug. So we've got the software that we use to produce the print. It's not made by us. It's made by another company. It's made by HP, and it's so it's a complex job. The sort of short answer is post-composition is always more difficult than it seems. So anything to do with taking a print document, getting information off the page, it's always more technically complex than it seems. But I'm happy to call it a bug because there's no good reason why that should be slower.
There's a nice answer as well, because in the second scenario where you do a first pass and then you just bin that PDF. You don't bin that PDF. You convince the customer that they need that PDF for their content archive.
Yeah.
Oh, nice,
Right.
nice.
And that way you charge them more for something that you were going to throw in the bin.
I like it. Yeah, and it's a valid.
Yeah.
It's a valid document.
Because going into their content archive, they don't care about it being mail sorted.
The other thing I was thinking as well is that if you see, until, like with something being over 7 pages and then before it doesn't need to be mail sorted, because it's going to have to be hand packed or whatever, it's too big to go in the envelope from the machine. It's interesting that there's no way of sort of being able to tell before you've composed it that it's going to be that big, because if you could tell that, then you wouldn't even need to generate that first PDF with everything, so that you're going to create all of that waste. You could just take out the accounts that are going to be too big.
It would be lovely to know in advance how big the document is going to be. Definitely.
That's exactly what composition is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to step in there. We can, if there's any questions, I'm sure Don will be sticking around for another 10-15 minutes, so there's an opportunity there, and same with me. So, but I'm conscious that we have gone 5 minutes over the agreed time box, which is really bad of me as a scrum master. So there's nibbles, not that many of them.